Sky 5. This is in downtown Raleigh, and we saw that looting happening at the CVS, and they started fires inside the CVS. Officers showed up to the scene, doused those flames, and that is what's left of it right now. I want to show you a map to give you an idea. Not everyone is familiar with the downtown area, so let's start right here. This is the Wake County Courthouse. That's where the protest started peacefully this evening. The CVS is just above that on West Hargett Street. And right here, the Wake County Sheriff's Office, that is where the protesters were face to face with officers at the Sallyport entrance to the jail earlier today. They did not breach that line, but there were some frustrations there that played out on the air earlier this afternoon. Let's show you some video. This is from the Market House down in Fayetteville. You see this video that was posted on social media earlier today? It looks like what we're seeing, that's how the fire started. That person went up the stairs and launched that bottle on fire into the building. What we're not showing you is that man actually caught fire as he was walking down the stairs. All of this unfolding. Brian Mims is live for us tonight in Fayetteville with much more. Brian, this story played out, and officers eventually showed up there just a short time ago.
And officers are on the scene. They are within my eyesight here at Maiden Lane and Green Street, directing traffic away, and there are officers on the other side of the Market House, a line of officers wearing protective shields, wearing protective gear. The crowd has certainly dwindled. It is a much quieter scene, and we can finally catch a breath here in downtown Fayetteville after some tense hours here, several hours of intense behavior. There were several fires set at the Market House. As a matter of fact, the rioters placed a stack of wooden pallets on the other side of the Market House and set it on fire. They were trying to make this big bonfire with wooden pallets. But police officers moved in a little before 9 o'clock. They had kept a wide perimeter. They were stationed at intersections around this scene, but they were not coming to the immediate area. They finally made it in with their protective gear and armored vehicle. We saw a Fayetteville Police armored vehicle make its way around the Market House, and now officers have the place under control. Just a few of the protesters, a few onlookers are still here, but it is much quieter, and police have patrolled or have set up their patrol around the Market House and have the place sealed off from the public now. But earlier, it was a scene of mayhem. There were people going inside the Market House to the second floor where there's a little museum. People made it to that second floor and began throwing furniture out the window. They threw chairs out the windows. They busted the windows with baseball bats, and people on the street were hurling bottles, were hurling other objects at the building. So there is certainly damage inside the Market House, and the windows are shattered, and there is graffiti. The rioters were spray painting on the Market House. There are words we can't show you on television, certainly obscene words that they spray painted on the Market House. And we have reports of other damage in downtown Fayetteville along Hay Street. We have reports of several businesses with shattered windows. Another television station has a bureau, an office here on Hay Street. There was damage. There was spray paint on that TV station's office here in Fayetteville. We have reports of windows shattered at City Hall, so damage did extend down Hay Street. But clearly, this was the center of attention. This was the focal point, ground zero, if you will, for the protest and rioting in Fayetteville, the Market House. An iconic structure here in downtown Fayetteville, but police have surrounded it. The sprinkler system has been engaged and prevented the fire from causing any more extensive damage. But it was harrowing here for a while. People were throwing things at the building. They were shouting at us, and the emotions were very inflamed. But it is good to see things finally quieting down here in Fayetteville as police have a heavy presence here around the Market House now, Mark.
right, Brian, I will take it from there. Brian Mims, alive in Fayetteville. No problem. Live in Fayetteville tonight. Thank you, Brian. Let's continue to talk about Durham. There was a protest there earlier in the day, and now there's a protest there again in the evening. Joe Fisher is on the move with protesters right now in Durham. Joe, where are the protesters heading?
Julian, this has been an extremely mobile protest all day long. We've seen these crowds move from downtown Durham to the outskirts of downtown by the police department headquarters. And now the protesters say that they are on the way to the Durham County Detention Center. They want to speak to some of the people who are locked up and incarcerated as we actually walk by the jail now, which is on Mangum Street. So we're walking with the protesters. This has been about a 10 to 15-minute walk, but they're committed to keeping this moving and spreading their message. We're hearing them now. They're chanting, "Say his name, George Floyd." We also just had some hands up, don't shoot cries from some children that are actually in the front of this group here. But we are moving right now, and police are blocking intersections. Every time we go over an intersection, which we're about to do here, police are there to make sure that this crowd can safely get by. We actually just had a couple of minutes ago a car that turned onto the protesters, stopped in place, and then continued to move. Right here, this intersection, you can see across the way here, this police officer trying to get into place. But these protesters are turning here onto South Mangum Street.
No justice! No peace!
As cars really are still coming down the road. We had one car that just came by, and it looks like police are now blocking traffic across the train tracks here on South Mangum Street as we follow these protesters in here down Mangum Street to the Durham County Detention Center. So again, we're still moving. It's not quite clear exactly where they are going to stop at this point. But we did see protesters in this general area at about 2 o'clock this afternoon. They stopped down outside of the Justice Center for a couple of hours and did much of what you're seeing now as far as raising their voices and raising their signs and chanting, "No justice, no peace," etc. And we're actually stopping right here and listening to the organizer.
What we're about to do is we're going to talk about the disproportionate amount of people, black, brown people, that are locked in those cells right now. We see you, we love you. We see you, we love you. We see you, we love you. We see you, we love you.
So at this point, what we're looking at is about 250 protesters on Mangum Street shouting at the people who are incarcerated, saying, "We see you, we love you." And we're actually seeing some of these inmates coming to the window and raising their hands. It looks like they are hearing the protesters from the ground. We're talking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 floors up. These appear to be inmates that are inside this building that they are shouting, "We see you, we love you." And we have those inmates that are really at the window right now. So this is still happening right in front of our eyes, and pretty amazing to see them coming to the window and listening to these protesters. And I want to listen in to exactly what they're saying here.
We need to remind them that they still are enough. We need to remind them that
the organizer saying that they need to remind the inmates that they are still important, that they are still enough. They see them, they love them, and supporting the people here in the Durham County Detention Center. Just to familiarize our audience with where we are right now, this is Mangum Street. We are directly across from the Durham Performing Arts Center, which is a popular destination. And you have some people here in front of the Durham County Detention Center that are holding signs. Actually, it appears that they're making eye contact with some of the inmates that are actually jailed here. So I'm trying to get a better eye for if there's people looking out the windows. It does look like we have people looking out the windows and seeing the crowd. So this is what we're seeing right now on Mangum Street in downtown Durham. I'm going to send it back to you if you have any questions for us here.
No, I have no questions at all, Joe. I've never seen a protest where the protesters actually go to the prison and have a message for the prisoners. Joe Fisher, live in Durham. Thank you.
All right, we want to head back to Raleigh now. Keeley Arthur joining us now live. Keeley, this protest now has been going on for about 6 hours. You've been there since the beginning when it all started about 4:30 this afternoon. Where are you right now? What are you seeing?
We're on Fayetteville Street where this all began, just a few blocks away from the Wake County Courthouse. And boy, how things have changed. Now this area has been heavily hit by vandalism. You can see this is Kimbrell's Furniture Store. Basically every single window into this store shattered. And just a little bit of a ways down is the CVS, which had a similar fate. You can see all this glass, incredibly dangerous. And this is so sad for so many reasons, because when we first spoke to everybody attending the protest, they talked about how they wanted this to be peaceful. They wanted this to be about a message of working with the police and creating important reform that they want to see. But what it has turned into is utter destruction. And I do feel like this is doubly sad because this downtown area, like every area, has been hit so hard because of the lack of business because of COVID-19. And now we're seeing a situation where thousands of dollars in damages are going to have to be paid for too. So just very sad right now. And I did take off my mask to give myself a breather for a moment. We were hit with tear gas a little while ago. And this is an area that isn't seeing as many people right now, but there are a few groups and bigger gatherings up near the courthouse. I know Aaron was over in that area as well. But yeah, just really sad here at this spot on Fayetteville right now.
Yeah, and we're talking to folks who have tears in their eyes based on what they're seeing. People who have lived here a long time, never seen anything like this. We are seeing some pictures as we're talking to you, Keeley, too, of some that Aaron Thomas took as the looting was starting at the CVS. Are you seeing anybody even trying to clean up at this point? I mean, the police have been so busy trying to handle the protest. It looks like those businesses are going to need some security tonight, I would think.
I think you're right. We did. I saw a sign repair person drive down this road just moments before you came to me, and I think they are here because of all of this. We haven't seen anyone entering these stores right now. From what I saw at the CVS just a few minutes ago, we didn't see any looters in there, and there were some more There's some more upscale stores as well. People were just kind of standing in there, but yeah, we're not really seeing anything in terms of and see people are here. People are just screaming at this point. People are throwing things in windows just because they're here right now. So things are out of control. And as you mentioned, Deborah, there aren't any police available right now to handle this situation.
Quite a lot to clean up, and we want to apologize to the people who were just listening and heard that profanity that unfortunately on Fox 50 we cannot bleep that at all. So we're trying our best to try to cover this story and try to keep the profanity out of your homes. So Keeley Arthur for now, thank you from downtown Raleigh.
Let's stay right in downtown Raleigh. Let's go back out to Aaron Thomas. Aaron, you were out there a little while ago. It seems like people were milling around. What is it looking like now, and where exactly are you at in Raleigh?
Yeah, Julian, so we're still here on Martin Street on Blunt Street, and we actually had a chance to grab a few folks because we want to find out, what exactly brought them out here and, the passion behind all of this. So would you mind sharing your name once again?
Freya.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Freya, and the reason we came out here is because we're tired of this. We're tired of cops killing our brothers and our sisters and getting away with it.
And look, everybody that's crying for these corporations and these buildings, they didn't care. They didn't speak out. I didn't see Target speak out against the murder of George Floyd, so we don't care either. Exactly. And by the way, black people have a right to do whatever they want to the country that they built for free.
Facts.
So it doesn't matter. We built this country, so
Police
they better.
are our employees. Our tax dollars
the justice
pay
system.
them.
We need reform.
Now, I want to ask you a question, because obviously, what we do nowadays, everything is very popular on social media. You may have people that may say something like, how does something that happened in Minneapolis, these folks are destroying their own city. It's pointless. What do you say to folks that say that what you're doing really is, it has no meaning?
What I say to them is, it won't matter till it comes to your door, right?
Right.
It doesn't matter if it's in Minneapolis, but it matters until it comes to your door. And what we're trying to do is stop it from coming to our door. We have to stop it now before it takes our children, our mothers, our brothers. We have to stop it now. It doesn't just matter when it happens.
It's not even about the direct person who caused the offense. We have to put pressure on lawmakers, corporation owners, CEOs, these people who have cash in the pockets of the presidents, the Congress people, their store owners. These are their stores, their banks, their streets. So if we don't put pressure and back them up against the wall, this is war. War is not pretty.
Now, I do want to go back. You were telling me that you're actually from Raleigh, right?
Yeah.
Are you proud to see your city in this state right now?
I'm proud to see the people here uniting against this evil. I am very proud that the people of Raleigh are uniting. When they see evil, they are uniting against it. Yes, I am very proud of that.
We're only empowered because the people said so. The police, all of these people are empowered because the people decide. So when we're done with it, you have to reform the whole system, and we're going to show you. You're going to feel us. And they felt us tonight, Raleigh. They felt us tonight.
I appreciate your time. I hope you guys, stay safe,
And you stay safe, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And there you have it. Just heard from several folks who are out here who clearly they say that this is their reasoning. They want to make their voices heard. They say that, even though, despite what happened in Minneapolis, that it could easily happen anywhere, including our capital city. And this is their way of making their voices heard. Do want to point out, though, that as we hear some of this tear gas that's thrown, you see some of these protesters, they start migrating in different areas. So it's really no telling where they're going to end up in downtown Raleigh. Julian?
You can hear the passion out there tonight. Aaron Thomas live in Raleigh. Thank you.
As the Wake County Sheriff told us a short time ago, though, now the protest has turned into criminal activity. When we're seeing the looting, when we're seeing the vandalism, when we're seeing the destruction of the property in downtown Raleigh, things have changed. It went from a message to now some destruction. Let's go now to the Live Center with Mark Boyle. Mark?
Deborah, let's go all the way up to the northwest. This is Seattle, Washington right here. There's a police cruiser that was set on fire, and firefighters are working to put that out. And you can see right now we're watching live pictures of police mobilizing to get that situation under control as things have spiraled out of control in that city earlier this evening, and it's continuing right now. Within the past 15 minutes, we have heard from President Donald Trump on Twitter. Let's take a look at those messages right here. Talking about New York to start. Let New York's finest be New York's finest. There's nobody better, he says, but they must be allowed to do their job. And the other one here to mention, the National Guard has been released in Minneapolis to do the job the Democrat mayor couldn't do. Should have been used 2 days ago, and there would not have been damage, and police headquarters would not have been taken over and ruined. Great job by the National Guard. No games. So federal officials have now taken over the control, according to President Donald Trump, and the National Guard going in to get the control back in Minneapolis and monitoring other pictures here this evening that are coming in. We're also seeing some protests happening in Washington, D.C., all of this unfolding while we're still dealing with it here in our community tonight. Deborah and Julian.
All right, thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Let's go back out to Fayetteville. Brian Mims is there. And Brian, it appears that you're on the move. I saw you moving around a little bit. I still take it you are in downtown Fayetteville. What is going on right now?
We're on the other side of the market house. We've kept our distance. We're trying to be very cautious about this. But the crowd, what little there is left, is on the other side. There's one woman who just had a little confrontation with the police officers, but the officers have lined up here on Gillespie Street. They're in their protective gear. You can see them with helmets and face shields. There's a much smaller crowd still here, but we're told that the protesters plan to go back to the mall, Cross Creek Mall, and one even in passing mentioned, we're going to go to the mall and we're going to steal some stuff. That's what he said. Let's hope it doesn't rise to that level. But they plan to carry the protests, the demonstrations to Cross Creek Mall. Let me give you a good look at the Market House from this side, the Gillespie Street side, and you could see clearly the shattered windows, all the damage to the windows of the Market House, and we can pan down and see the rubble, the debris from furniture. The furniture, what was that? So, okay. Folks, I'm just talking with my partner, Michael Joyner, here, as he helps me notice some things about the scene. But furniture was thrown out of the Market House, and it just shattered here on the ground. There's shattered glass. There were several fires started. Protesters were using wooden pallets to set a bonfire, but fortunately no fires are burning anymore. There is a good amount of graffiti on the Market House, and we have to be careful in what we're showing because there's obscene language, things we can't show you on the air, but a good bit of graffiti on the Market House and on buildings behind us, behind Michael with the camera. We can't show you that either. We better not. No, we can't show you because the words are just too offensive. But this has been a primary spot for the protesters because of the history of the Market House. People are upset with the history. Since there were slaves sold here in the pre-Civil War years, it has been used for a number of other things, but it was used for slave sales during the antebellum years of North Carolina, and that is a sore point for some people in this community, and they want to see this building gone, razed, and they were trying to do that tonight. Clearly, they were trying to destroy the building and erase it from the Fayetteville landscape. They set fires to it. We saw people go in the building up to the second floor with big red containers of gasoline. They poured gasoline on the ground and set it on fire. We saw flames inside the building. They were busting the windows with baseball bats, and they were throwing stuff out of the building. The sprinkler system engaged, but firefighters and police kept their distance. They did not get into the middle of things because of fear that they would just inflame the situation even further. But they eventually made it in, police did, and they have the building secure. Police officers are stationed around the building, in the roundabout, the traffic circle around the building, and keeping people away from it. So we have not seen any of the rioters go into the building in the last, I don't know, about an hour or so. So just to recap here in Fayetteville, the protest began a little before 3 o'clock on Skybo Road, a main commercial thoroughfare in Fayetteville, the busiest road in town. Started there, and the protesters made their way to the Market House because of the symbolism here. This was a place they wanted to rally and clearly wanted to deface. So at 5 o'clock they gathered here. They marched down Hay Street, went to the police headquarters, and came back here to the Market House. We have reports of damage to businesses along Hay Street, windows shattered. There are some businesses here on Gillespie Street that have been damaged, and I'm told that some business owners came to try to clean up the mess. But let me just show you. Let me stand out of the way, and Michael will show you what's going on here now. The police officers with their batons, helmets, face shields, facing a few people, not many. It's a very small crowd. But, Julian, we hear that the protest will continue out at the mall, Cross Creek Mall, where things started 7 hours ago.
Brian Mims has been there for every phase of the protest today in Fayetteville. Thank you, Brian.
Well, 9.5 hours ago, we started the protest in Durham, and Joe Fisher and I were on the air live just a little after 1 o'clock. The people there promised to keep this protest peaceful. Joe, they were just at the jail. Where are they now?
Deborah, in the last hour, we moved from the Durham Police Headquarters to the detention center, back here to 5 Points. This is that busy intersection we've been at for hours today. This is Main Street and Chapel Hill Street, and just in the past 5 minutes, dozens of these protesters spontaneously jumped onto the street here, blocking some traffic that the police had not even had a chance to block this intersection yet. So it does appear that things are winding down. It does appear that the crowd is thinning out, and some of these protesters are even saying that they might be heading to Raleigh because they're seeing what's happening there. I want to bring in James, and we've been talking for the past little bit here. Just your initial thoughts. You've been out here for a long time, since 3 o'clock this afternoon. You left, you came back. What can you say about this crowd throughout the day?
Well, what I can say about this crowd is it is peaceful, and they are getting their point across. And I think the real question is, what do we do tomorrow? When all of this crowd is gone, when the cameras are off, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Because this has been going on for many years. Like I was just saying, I was a kid when King was killed. They marched. They marched for Rodney King. They have marched and marched and marched, and yet nothing changed. So my thing is, and I want everyone to hear, what do we do as an American to make America better, not just for whites, not just for Chinese, not just for Latinos, not just for blacks, but everybody. Because together, this country can be great. But my question now is, when has this country ever been great for black America?
You're seeing what's happening in Raleigh. Obviously, this is a much different scene, a much more peaceful scene than the images that we've been looking at from downtown Raleigh. When you see those images, are you sad to see things turn violent in that way? And can you understand why things have gotten violent in not just downtown Raleigh, but across the country?
I can say that in the past, I have said that they should not be tearing up the cities, but I happened to be watching CNN last night, and they interviewed a young black guy, and they asked him, was it wrong? Of course, he said, yes, it's wrong. But I also appreciated what he said, and that's the only thing they understand. So if it takes tearing up the cities to get people in power, politicians and etc., to understand that we are in pain, and this is not just one time or 2 times, because as we speak right now, there is some black man somewhere being harassed and beaten and possibly even killed by police.
Before we go, I want to ask you, things have stayed very peaceful here today. Do you think that you have been heard and that the hundreds of people that have shown up here in downtown Durham today have been heard?
I will say they have, and we have been heard to a sense. But again, it goes back to my initial, and that is, what do we do after tonight? Because after tonight, after the cameras are gone, after the crowd is gone, what we see before and after election will show if our voices were heard tonight.
James, thank you so much for talking to us. We really do appreciate it. And we've been talking to people like James all day long who want to see this change happen immediately, and they say it just has not happened over the course of history, even recent events, that they thought things would be different by now, and things to them have not become much different than what they were 5 years ago, a decade ago, 100 years ago. So this is certainly a difficult conversation to have, and like you heard from James, what that conversation will become in the days, weeks, months, and years to follow is certainly a very difficult discussion. Back to you.
Yeah, posing some great questions. What happens tomorrow? A lot of people want to know the answer to that. Joe Fisher, live in Durham. Thank you, Joe.
Let's talk to Aaron Thomas. He is in Raleigh as well, in downtown Raleigh. And Aaron, I'm understanding you are about to speak with someone who will eventually have to pick up the pieces.
Yes, I'm actually here with Louis Sheets. He is the owner of Short Walk Wines, just one of the business owners who, actually he says he was watching WRL and, saw what was happening downtown and just kind of talked to us about, what's going on right now in front of your business.
Yeah, so somebody busted out one of the windows. It doesn't look like they came inside. As soon as the window was busted out, I immediately came down, started building up some protection against the other windows, and we'll sit here and protect the store for the rest of the night.
Yeah, I mean, can you kind of walk us through, you know, when you were watching our coverage, I mean, did you have any feeling that it would eventually make its way down here on Martin Street in front of your business?
Definitely the uneasiness of it moving around downtown.
It's crazy, man.
I was hoping it was going to stay away from our shop and away from everybody's shop for that matter, and not get to this point where people are damaging and ruining people's livelihoods.
Now, it seems like it's gone from, you know, peaceful to, you know, we've heard some of our, authorities. Sorry about that, viewers at home. So we've heard from some of our law enforcement officers. They said that this has gone from peaceful protest to now criminal activity. Do you feel like, you know, a lot of the people behind this, you feel like they're justified in a lot of these actions?
Do I feel they're justified?
Yeah,
no
a
way.
lot of them are saying that, you know, this is their way of making their voice heard, and, you know, the system, you know, that's been built for generations.
Not justification in ruining people's businesses and livelihoods. Protest is great, and that's a important part of our society, but not going in and ruining other people's businesses. That's uncalled for. Barbaric.
So, I mean, any idea how long it may take to, you know, build back up, get your windows fixed?
No, I don't know yet. Yep, I appreciate it. I don't know yet. Yep.
Well, best of luck with your recovery process. And there you have it. That is Louis Sheets. He is the owner of Short Walk Wines here in downtown Raleigh, one of several businesses that have been destroyed. And actually, if you recall, when we were out here earlier, we spoke with one woman who was, you know, almost moved to tears. And she was saying that one of her friends owns the business that's down there that has the spray paint on some of the windows and some of the other windows shattered. And they were saying how, you know, it's really you can actually hear some of the alarms that are buzzing over here. They were saying how it's really no point in calling the police because their hands are tied. I mean, it's like, you know, where do you go in the city? And, I mean, when there's so much to respond to.
It will be tough for small business owners to pick up the pieces again as they try to reopen. All right, Aaron Thomas live in Raleigh.
As we continue to look at some of these live pictures coming from downtown Raleigh, we just heard glass shattering. Aaron was also telling us about the alarms going off. We're seeing the police with their riot gear walking through the streets of downtown Raleigh. We heard the glass shattering and we saw people running away. Keeley Arthur was right in that area and she was right at the Kimbrell's furniture store. Heard that glass shatter, and even as Aaron was talking too, I know people are trying to clean up, so that may have been the cause of some of what we were hearing as far as the glass shattering. But building after building, storefront after storefront, we're seeing a lot of damage, a lot of vandalism. As the wine shop owner just said, it appears that people may not have gone inside. They definitely went inside the CVS and they looted in there. They tried to set fire to that CVS, but we are seeing a lot of destruction. We are seeing graffiti, spray paint, the broken glass, and a lot of damage in downtown Raleigh. We're seeing protesters that are still throwing items at officers too as they are standing there on the streets of downtown Raleigh. Do we want to go to Keeley, Lauren? Oh, we're going to go to Live Center now with Mark Boyle. Mark?
Here in the Live Center, I wanted to show everyone where all this is happening if you're not familiar. So the map of downtown Raleigh right here, this is the Wake County Courthouse. This is the street, Fayetteville Street, that runs right through the heart of the city. That is where all of this is happening. The protesters have marched all around the city, as well as coming down here by the convention center. I am working to get more information from our city leaders to talk about what's going on tonight, what the plan is. You heard Aaron talking about there this evening that police are stretched extremely thin. All across the country, we are seeing this. Looking at these live pictures coming in here this evening, it is incredible to see all of this unfold all before us here tonight. We'll continue to monitor these live pictures coming in the Live Center. Back to you.
Mark Boyle, thank you so much. All right, now we're going to go to Keeley Arthur in downtown Raleigh. Keeley, where are you? And bring us up to speed with what you're seeing.
Well, I just want to let you know really quick, my AirPods died. I'm charging them right now. We've just been running around and trying to get battery power as we can. So I'm going to put the phone down. We are live right here on Martin, Fayetteville Street. It has gotten increasingly violent. What started out as a peaceful protest at just around 4:30 on this very street, in front of the Wake County Courthouse, has turned into a violent mess is the only way to describe it. There is glass everywhere. There's garbage everywhere. People are running around. People are yelling. People are very upset. Somebody just broke the window to a subway, and people are just starting to get to a point where they are breaking and vandalizing things, and there seems to be no purpose. What started out as a discussion about racial equity and making the situation better has turned into kind of just a free-for-all. People are very upset, and you can tell that the police are agitated too. They have gotten to a point where they are not waiting. They are not sitting silently. You can see more people breaking into areas. They are not at a point, and we're going to move, Brad, because there's more tear gas that's being thrown. And that is something that we're seeing happen all the time here tonight. More and more tear gas. Really painful.
Why don't we talk about
it's used as a deterrent, but it's not helping.
How about that?
And people, just want to be heard, but it's gotten to a point where there's no kind of organized protest. People are just running around at this point.
Keeley, thank you. I know we'll let you get into a safe place with all of those people and glass breaking around you. Certainly. Julie and I were just talking. It seems as though the violence is really escalating. I mean, we had the broken windows, but now our crews are in a position where they're seeing a lot more of the vandalism, and we're seeing the crowds apparently increase in size. Doesn't it appear that way to you,
Without a
Julian?
doubt. It appeared at one point that the crowd had almost basically dispersed. You just saw groups of people here and there kind of spread out. But now it seems like since the CVS fire, the crowd has started to pick up. And I think this is the largest group of people that we have seen in a while. Now, granted, there's been much larger groups tonight, but it was at one point, it appeared that the crowds were starting to disperse, and now it looks like it's picking back up, Deborah.
This is Fayetteville Street, and that's Memorial Auditorium you're seeing in the distance. And so our cameras are at different vantage points, as you can see, on Fayetteville Street. There are quite a number of people out there now. We know the police are in the crowd, too. They are trying to keep what sense of calm they possibly can. We are seeing repeatedly we're seeing tear gas being thrown that disperses the crowd for a while, but then they come right back, and we're still hearing glass shattering and businesses being looted. Julian.
Yeah. That was also the scene where a peaceful protest took place earlier today. There were more than 1,000 people that were there earlier for that peaceful protest, and now this is what you're seeing. Let's go to Durham. There was also 2 protests there earlier today. There was one during the day and now one in the evening. Joe, you have been walking every step with the protesters. Where are you now in Durham?
Julian, right now we are still at the intersection of East Chapel Hill Street and Main Street here in downtown Durham, as this crowd has really thinned out over the past 15 minutes. There is probably about 50 people that remain. You're seeing some of these signs that say no justice, no peace, but some of the protesters have said that they are going to be headed to Raleigh to join those protesters that are there. So right now we're still seeing a small gathering, a quiet gathering, and they have actually moved off of the street, which is good. Traffic is moving again. So things are very, very peaceful. They've stayed peaceful all day, and it does appear that the crowd is dispersing at this point.
Joe, are the police still around as well? They were kind of following the crowd at one point. Even though you said the crowd is starting to disperse, they were trying to make sure that no protesters were injured by oncoming vehicles, things of that nature. Are you still seeing officers out there doing that?
Well, we're actually looking kind of down the street, and we don't want to show this one sign because there are some curse words on it. But we're actually seeing the roads are open at this point. We're seeing some cars that are having a little bit of trouble. You'll see right over here getting through. It looks like one car's trying to get through. We have some people who have stepped into the road. They're now getting by as another car comes through. So it's a little tense of a situation. These cars are pulling up. They're really kind of confused about what's happening. And they're being confronted by some of the protesters, and we have this one woman here who's getting a little aggressive, so we're going to send it back to you.
Thanks, Joe. We will see you later. Let's go right to Raleigh. These are the images you have been seeing for the last several seconds right here, and it appears things are starting to intensify again. And Deborah, I think we're seeing the same situation over and over again. The crowd comes back together, and then they slowly move apart once the tear gas comes out.
You know, Julian, I've lived here for more than 27 years now, and to see a site like this where you're seeing tear gas, Memorial Auditorium, which is so beautiful in the background, Fayetteville Street, which has been such a gathering place over the years for people of Raleigh, for businesses, for activities, for festivals, for people having a good time. And seeing an image like this, it just, it's really heartbreaking. It's really hard to watch as we're seeing all of the destruction, all of the vandalism, and this protest that has now turned into criminal activity, as the sheriff told us. Let's go to Live Center. Mark Boyle.
Deborah, we continue to monitor what's happening across the country. Is this our aerial right here? Yeah. But Deborah, you know, we have feeds coming in from all over the country, but some of the most violent that we're seeing is right here. You know, I don't know if that's, let's see what we're watching. We're watching people scatter in that area as police work to bring that situation under control. There are protests around the country. We'll start with Seattle right here, where we've seen fires. Philadelphia continues to try and bring things under control there. Minneapolis, that's another one where there is a focus this evening, and police have not cleared that situation. We saw the president tweeting that the National Guard has been mobilized. Back to Raleigh here and Sky 5. Over the scene in downtown, the police line has been set right there, and it looks like they are trying their best to move those agitators out of that situation. We've seen the CVS that was looted earlier on Hargett Street, and someone actually tried to set it on fire, but police were in the area quickly enough where they could go in there and get that get that fire put out as quickly as possible. One of our ground crews is showing us, Deborah, this is the incredible shot that you were just talking about there in downtown, and it's fascinating to see this all play out before our very eyes, because many people haven't experienced this before, and it continues to unfold here. We'll monitor this situation as it continues to develop here in the Live Center this evening. Much more on WRAL when we begin at 11 o'clock.
Mark, thank you. We want to go back to Keeley Arthur and her photographer, Brad Simmons, who have been there in downtown Raleigh for hours now. Keeley, you were just closer to that area where we saw some tear gas being deployed. Are police trying to get a handle on the situation there on Fayetteville Street?
I mean, police are using every measure they can in terms of tear gas, everything we've seen. And you mentioned Brad, and I'm going to say this on air. I mean, he was just hit with a rubber bullet in his kneecap, and it broke skin. My photographer, who's done amazing work tonight. This situation has gotten really out of control. I have a lot of people stopping me saying, these people aren't even from Raleigh. This is not what Raleigh is about. And I do want to mention the fact that while it is so chaotic right now, this did begin incredibly peacefully. Everybody was here for reasons from the heart. They really wanted to have a discussion and create reform within Raleigh, within the police department. And it really has taken a turn for the worse. It has gotten very violent. Windows are being broken. People are being hurt right now in downtown Raleigh.
You know, I'm going back to my notes that I've been taking since 1 o'clock in the afternoon, since we have been on the air. And I know we talked with the mayor of Raleigh earlier today before all the protests started, and she said that she knew people were angry. She knows they're tired, but she wanted people to use their anger in a positive way, and she was praying for a peaceful protest. We're trying to get more comments from her tonight now that it has turned into this destruction and violence and a lot of vandalism. And as you said, you know that people who are from Raleigh certainly are having a hard time seeing what they're seeing tonight.
Right, they absolutely are. I think everybody out here is a little confused. Everyone's upset for one reason or another. And, you know, like you said, it's so important to mention that people were hoping that everyone would use their frustrations in a really constructive manner. And I think we really did see that for hours. But it has gotten to a point where we are not seeing that anymore. People are being hurt for no reason, and buildings are being vandalized for no purpose.
Before we leave you, can you just describe what you're seeing? One of the vantage points that we're seeing there on Fayetteville Street is a line of police officers now that appear to be not letting people through the rest of Fayetteville Street toward Memorial Auditorium. Can you explain what you're seeing right now?
Yes, that is absolutely right. So beyond the courthouse, there is that line of police, and we were really close to it, but they were using tear gas to get the crowd to disperse, and I think they have achieved that. It was starting to get way heated. More people were starting to kind of gather in that area on Martin and Fayetteville, and then they used tear gas. They're in their full riot gear, and they advanced to keep people from gathering in that area any longer.
All right, we continue to follow this and see what happens next. Keeley, thank you. Julian?
Let's go through some of the images that we saw earlier today. We can't stress enough about the peaceful protests that took place on Fayetteville Street in downtown Raleigh. This is what you're looking at right here. This was near the Capitol, near a statue right there. You hear people chanting, a very diverse crowd. A number of speakers came in, and people listened to the speakers. In fact, a number of parents brought their kids to the protests. They wanted them to see a protest in action. Over and over again, we heard from some of the organizers of the earlier protests that they wanted it to be peaceful, but they wanted to get their message across. That was the scene earlier. And then this was the scene a little bit later. The crowd started to walk the streets, and then they walked near a sally port right there where you see officers. Now, we do want to be very mindful and let you know, for the most part, during the peaceful protests, we really didn't see any officers. We saw maybe a couple of squad cars way back, but this is when we saw officers. They stood right there. Some you could see in riot gear. Other officers did not have on riot gear. And then you see the protesters linking arms with one another right in front of the officers. This is when things and tensions started to go up. And then that brings us right here where we are right now. You see the officers there. There was a crowd a little bit earlier, but the officers released some tear gas trying to disperse the crowd once again. What we have seen happen after the tear gas is deployed, we see some of these groups, they split off, and then there's some groups that come back, and then there's other groups which we have seen that have vandalized some of the businesses in downtown Raleigh. The first one that we know of is the CVS. At the CVS earlier, there was an image of a man that was standing right in front of it. He was standing there for a while. Over and over again, he tried to, it almost seemed like reason with the protesters not to do it. And then moments later, you see looters go inside of the CVS and they start to take stuff. Then a fire starts. And then that's when officers and firefighters arrived. This is what we're seeing now. Sky 5 is in the air. And this paints a picture as well of what we've been seeing for the last couple of hours. Some streets, it almost appears that the protests may be over and it may be dying down, and then you see cars, and then you see people getting out, and then you see people congregating once again. That is what we're looking at from this perspective right now. We've also heard a very, very emotional and powerful interviews. There was even one from a woman who was trying to help a friend who owned a business there, and she was in tears. She was very emotional. And even though she was emotional, she was in tears, she was telling other protesters that were down there to watch out for the glass. to be careful, even though she was distraught. Let's go to Mark Boyle in the Live Center.
Julian, in Los Angeles right now, we're watching different people take away bags of things from the different areas, and it looks as if things have been looted in that area, just like we've seen here in Raleigh at like that CVS store and a few other places in downtown. So while we're dealing with it here on the East Coast, on the West Coast, it is happening as well. That is what we're seeing, and you see people come out right there. Continuing to watch this live coverage unfold here tonight on WRAL. Back to you.
All right. Thank you, Mark, and thank you. We will be back. We're going to take a short break, but we will be back in just a few minutes on WRAL. There, we will continue to monitor the situations with protests across our area.
We have live team coverage from Durham, Fayetteville, and Raleigh. Our 10th hour of live team coverage continues at 11.
Tired of the high-pressure sales spin? At Mattress Warehouse, you simply lie back, relax, and let BedMatch do the work for you. Save up to $800 at Mattress Warehouse, using science, not pressure, to find your perfect bed.
This isn't a small business opening. You already had one of those. It's a reopening. Take two. And just in time. Because right now, people need coffee that tastes like coffee. And hair that doesn't look like that. They need someone who knows where those numbers actually go. They need you and everything that made your business great from your first day one. Yeah, we've been knocked back on our heels, and it took a minute, but it still says florist, or repairs, or plumber over that door. And there are still customers who can't wait to walk through it. That light at the end of the tunnel, it's a workout that doesn't involve 2 bags of flour. It's a 20-foot-tall inflatable guy saying, come on by. It's you and your small business, turning your community and the country around. One appointment, one customer, one thank you at a time. Small business is coming back. And Spectrum Business is giving every new customer 1 free month of Spectrum Business services to make sure it does. We're here for you because you're here for all of us.
Many parts of our lives have been put on hold because of COVID-19. But one thing that should not wait is taking care of your healthcare needs. Delaying treatment can put you at risk to have serious health complications. North Carolina's healthcare providers and hospitals are taking extra steps to keep you safe. That's why they've made important changes like using masks, offering video consultations, and accommodating social distancing. Don't wait to take care of your healthcare needs. North Carolina's medical offices and hospitals are safe, ready, and waiting to see you.
Did you know that if you sleep better, you'll live better, dream bigger, and go farther? And that is exactly why at Mattress Warehouse, we've made finding the perfect bed finally possible. Find a better price? We'll match it. Plus 50% of the difference, only at Mattress Warehouse.
With 0 interest and 0 payments for 90 days, you have 0 excuses to not have your new Hyundai by Memorial Day. Lease the Elantra.
Data analysts.
The most accurate information possible.
And fact-checking experts. Crew, telling the stories you find only on WRAL News. That's our team. Coverage you can count on.
At Mattress Warehouse, we've always put your health and wellness at the forefront of our business. And now, as we reopen our stores, we're taking that promise even further to ensure you are protected. We start with our Clean Shop Promise. That includes proper sanitization techniques and disposable protective coverings on all pillows and mattresses in our stores. You can also book a private appointment to visit us at your convenience. We all feel better with a good night's sleep. Let Mattress Warehouse help you get there.
With 0 interest and 0 payments for 90 days, you have 0 excuses to not have your new Hyundai by Memorial Day. Get a Tucson with 0% APR for 84 months and no payments for 90 days, or get $37.50 in savings. Complimentary maintenance included.
We control this with real-time 3D imaging that can zero in on your town, even your street. WRAL severe weather coverage.
That's how the fire started.
It looks like people are throwing bottles at the police car that just drove through.
A firecracker or something being thrown into the area.
Yeah, I think it may be tear gas. Yeah, we got to go.
Now we see some smoke.
People are running toward this danger. People are running away from it. Just to give you a sense of what is happening in downtown Raleigh right now.
Just amazing to see how this has unfolded today. Tonight, the protests continue in Raleigh and Fayetteville and Durham, with some fires being lit, a lot of destruction and looting, and police deploying tear gas in some areas. Thank you for joining us. I'm Deborah Morgan.
And I'm Julian Grace. We have been keeping you abreast on every protest step by step. What you're looking at right here, this is downtown Raleigh. That is the CVS that was looted a little bit earlier. And now we're learning of a possible another business, possibly a jewelry store. Aaron Thomas is live on the scene right now. Aaron, what are you seeing?
Hey, Julian, we actually just arrived here on Hargett Street and McDowell Street, and about 45 seconds ago, we actually saw an ambulance pulling away here. And then also, if you take a look here, you can see several officers with the police department that are standing here. So pretty large police presence. We're working to find out, what that is all about. But one thing that we should note here at this intersection, it's an interesting calmness. Aside from, where we've been reporting on Market Street and Fayetteville Street, it is a complete calmness. Just a few seconds ago, we did hear one young man yelling some expletives towards police officers, but it's so much different from what we've seen since we've been downtown. And earlier this evening, this exact same area is where we saw the protesters marching down here with their signs, chanting, making their voices heard through traffic, and just pointing out, other than this large police presence that's here right now, is just, it's completely quiet. And of course, we believe that, there is still some activity that's going on. There are different pockets within the city. But here it's very quiet, and we're just seeing some, protesters that are just kind of going their separate ways.
Well, just a live picture that we're seeing as you're talking. About a block away from you, Aaron, we are seeing more people break windows on Fayetteville Street. That CVS that was looted earlier that we were showing you on Sky 5, and even a fire lit right out front of there. There are people going in and out of that. The police had come and they had put out a fire, but we're still seeing a lot of people right there in that area of Fayetteville Street. We understand nearly every window there on Fayetteville Street for every business, so business after business, has been shattered. There's glass all over the ground in this area on the ground floor.
Yes. Yes, it's and just as we were, because we've been visiting different blocks of downtown, and as we saw Fayetteville Street, that seems to be like the epicenter of where all the energy and frustration, people are taking all their frustration out there. And we had to be careful, again, because, we have been hit with tear gas at least, twice tonight. So it seems like a lot of the businesses, the small business owners, particularly on Fayetteville Street, they're going to have a lot of cleaning up to do. It's pretty, unbelievable to see.
Devastating for some of these businesses, for sure. Aaron, thank you. Julian?
Yeah, it's just two sides. Aaron spoke about the calmness where he was. You saw officers, but you didn't see any protesters. And then you see another shot, and then, wow, it's not quiet at all. That's where we find Keeley Arthur. She is in downtown Raleigh right now. Keeley, what are you seeing there?
Yes, the calmness, the community that we saw a few hours ago has totally changed. Right now you can see officers in full riot gear lining Martin Street. This is at the intersection of Fayetteville and Martin. They have been pushing protesters back. There were many protesters gathered in that area just 15 minutes ago. What they did is they started to use tear gas and these rubber pellets. And I have one of these because one of them hit my photographer, Brad Simmons, who's been doing an amazing job tonight. Hit him in the kneecap. His knee is so swollen. He doesn't want to show it to us on air because it doesn't look good right now. And that is what this night has come to. It started out very calm. It started out very peaceful. And it's turned incredibly violent. And I know, Deborah, you mentioned that every window down Fayetteville Street is broken. And I know that's hard for people to imagine, but almost every window truly is broken and shattered. There is glass everywhere. There is garbage everywhere. Just a few few hundred feet down is the CVS where people are looting. So things have changed tremendously from that incredibly peaceful, incredibly moving, truly protest that we saw begin at the Wake County Courthouse earlier in the evening.
Whole evolution for sure. And Aaron was interviewing a wine shop owner right down there in that area too. He was trying to clean up all the glass. People had broken into his store, and he was just talking about how devastating it is. And we were talking earlier too about how a lot of these businesses have been closed for months because of COVID-19 and the not being, we just lost Keeley's shot. So we will continue to look at this live picture now of the police in riot gear in downtown Raleigh on Fayetteville Street as they continue to line up. We're still seeing some things thrown in their direction as they are simply standing there, and it appears to be water or some type of liquid being thrown at these protesters. And what's interesting too are the cars that are just driving in this area. I'm sure police would tell you not to come to this area. Our folks have certainly said that it is not safe to go to downtown Raleigh right now. And then on the left side of your screen, we're watching what's happening in Fayetteville. Julian?
Yeah, that is Cross Creek Mall. You see people have entered the mall there. Earlier in the night, things got calm, or things started to calm down in downtown Fayetteville. And Brian Mims said that one of the protesters there told the officer, hey, we're going to Cross Creek Mall. And this is what you're seeing right now. A number of people are going in and out of the JCPenney there. We do not see any officers. People are coming in and out with items. This is the scene there. Brian Mims, he is headed there right now, but that is the scene at Cross Creek Mall in Fayetteville. We don't see any officers. It almost appeared that things were winding down in Fayetteville, like literally. Protesters were moving away from the downtown area. Officers had surrounded that area, and now you see on a different side of town in Fayetteville where protesters are now inside the mall there. Let's go to Mark Boyle, who is right now in the Live Center.
Julian, I want to show you some live pictures. This is from Los Angeles, the Flight Club. It's a shoe store there. For the past 15 or 20 minutes, these looters have gone in and they're getting boxes of shoes, taking them away. Police are nowhere in the area. You have not seen an officer or anyone try and stop these people. Say that one more time, Lauren. Okay. We are getting some information in about police arriving at the Cross Creek Mall in Fayetteville. So this is live pictures coming in from Raleigh, and we are getting information that Fayetteville, that Cross Creek Mall is where police are going right now. And this is what we're looking at? Yes. So what you're looking at right now is live pictures coming in from Fayetteville at the Cross Creek Mall. We've been hearing from people that the looters, the protesters have moved to that mall, and in fact, we now have crews on the ground that you can see some of those people running there in the distance away from officers at the mall. And they're trying to get away from police who are now surrounding the mall there in Fayetteville. And we've been watching all evening how the protesters started in that city, in downtown, and now they've moved. This is right in front of the JCPenney, if you're familiar with that area in Fayetteville at the Cross Creek Mall. So police have surrounded that area. It's unclear right now if there are any protesters or looters inside the mall. I know Brian Mims and his crew are trying to get set up there. As soon as we have him, we will take him and take you out to the scene to see exactly what's going on. Brian, can you hear me okay? He might not be set up. Looks like he's setting up right now.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm ready.
Brian, tell us what you're seeing right now.
Well, we're seeing just let me show you. All these police officers have swarmed the mall right after the protesters came. The rioters came to swarm the mall. They busted into the JCPenney. I was on the other side of the store, and I saw the crowd breaking the glass, breaking the windows, and going inside, running out with armfuls of clothes. I saw many people running out, their arms full of clothes and other merchandise from JCPenney. And as I came walking along the side of the parking lot, that's when I noticed all of the Fayetteville police, and there is a huge response of Fayetteville police officers surrounding the mall. And I've seen a few, well, it looked like police were on the verge of making a few arrests, though I have not seen anybody in handcuffs yet. But police are responding heavily. Now, we were just at the Market House in the last half hour. We heard over an hour ago that the protest was moving here to the mall, to JCPenney, and this is where I witnessed people running into the mall and running out with their arms full of merchandise. And again, not seen any arrests yet, but it is just, it was pandemonium in the parking lot. I've never seen anything like it in person. Michael, what was that? Okay, Michael is pointing out, my photographer, he just saw an arrest. There was an arrest being made. I don't see it myself, but he did witness somebody being arrested. And I saw people running just as fast. Oh, okay, there we go. There is a woman being arrested. Okay, Michael, you have that. 2 people, 2 women getting put in handcuffs right now outside the JCPenney. Wow. This is unbelievable. But 2 people arrested, and just what I witnessed on the way over here, just the sheer pandemonium, people running out, people driving all over the place. It's amazing nobody was hit by a car in that parking lot. But there were lots of people going into the store and running out. I mean, this whole situation has just evolved into chaos. Clearly, this is not a peaceful demonstration anymore. This is a riot. And the looting was breathtaking. What I saw, the people running out of that store with armloads of clothes. It also, I mean, in Fayetteville, it started a little before 3 o'clock as a relatively peaceful event, and this is what it has reached at Cross Creek Mall.
Brian,
go ahead, Deborah, I'm sorry.
well, I'm just wondering, because this is such a different look as far as what you saw when you were at the Market House. Police stayed back. They didn't really interfere with what was going on, and now we're seeing this huge police presence there at Cross Creek Mall, Brian.
Yeah, it is, and it was scary. As I was trying to rendezvous with Michael here. We were in separate vehicles, so I was trying to find a place where we can meet, and this is a good, safe location. But I had to walk along the edge of the parking lot, and some officers saw me with the microphone, and they said, "Hands up, freeze." And then they saw I was with the media. So that's just, it gives you a sense of the tension here right now. And it was a little unnerving. But we've seen a few arrests, at least 2 arrests here. And I'm certain there'll be more. But just look at the presence of police there with all their flashing lights outside the JCPenney. It was sheer craziness here. Sheer craziness.
Brian, can you talk a little bit? Brian, can you talk a little bit about you being at the Market House earlier, and you heard that this could possibly happen at the mall? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so we were at the Market House for several hours, 5.5 hours at the Market House, and we heard people talking about demonstrating, or not even demonstrating, but looting the mall. And people walked past me and weren't hiding that fact. One guy said, "We're going to go to the mall and steal some stuff." Those were his exact words. So we kept hearing comments about a demonstration at the mall. So we came here to Cross Creek Mall, and sure enough, we got here, and it was just a chaos. It was mayhem. People running into the store and running out. At the Market House, it was chaos too. As we've been reporting through the night, there were fires set at the Market House. There was gasoline poured onto the floor, and the place was set on fire. It was not destroyed. There is some heavy damage, property damage, windows shattered, but we kept hearing words among the demonstrators, the rioters, really, that there would be this kind of display, this action at Cross Creek Mall, and that's certainly what has panned out. This is where it all began. This afternoon, we had a peaceful protest. I should remind you that at 3:30, 4 o'clock this afternoon, there was a peaceful rally here in this very parking lot. We were standing on the other side of the lot, and the mayor was here. Mayor Mitch Colvin was here along with 3 council members. And Mayor Colvin pleaded with the crowd not to degenerate into mayhem, because once you have mayhem and madness, the message gets lost. So in this very parking lot, the mayor of Fayetteville said, do not let this happen. Do not commit violence. Do not protest, because the message will be lost. And 7 hours later, this is what we're seeing in his city. We're seeing in Fayetteville, looting. It's despicable behavior. And I mean, there's just no way to describe it.
Well, I know the organizer earlier mentioned to you, Brian, that he's here for a peaceful protest, but he cannot control the crowd. Brian Mims, live in Fayetteville. Thank you.
Right.
I want to go back to Raleigh. Sky 5 has been showing us images of the CVS, and this has been going on now for probably more than an hour. We saw one man trying to stand in front of the CVS saying, don't come in, but eventually the looters forced their way in, broke all the windows. They even set fire. And then Raleigh police came in, tear gas was fired, the crowd dispersed, and now they're back. And now they're going in and out of the CVS. Our crew in Sky 5, Mitch is our pilot, Keith is our photographer, doing a wonderful job of showing us what is happening there in downtown Raleigh. And very close to where this is happening at the CVS, right there on Fayetteville Street, a line of police officers who continue to be lined up there, allowing some of this to happen right now as we are watching these live images still at this hour, 11:17 on the Saturday evening. This protest started very peacefully around 4:30 this afternoon. People brought their families out. They had speakers who were talking about police training and equality and being able to have a message of a dialogue for police community activity. And now, I'm sorry, Lauren, did you say the people? The rioters just are rushing out of the CVS now. They're rushing down the street. This is right at the corner of Hargett and Fayetteville Street. Keeley Arthur is in this area. Keeley, can you tell us what's happening?
Well, I mean, there's tear gas. Things are escalating really quickly here. There's a firework that's going off. You can see police in riot gear are advancing down Fayetteville Street, and they're trying to get people to disperse. We did see a bunch of people walking into the CVS pharmacy. Brad, if you turn around, you can see even more police. There is a scene everywhere at this point in downtown Raleigh. And as I've reported before, the number of police here versus protesters, there are way more officers on the scene right now. This whole area is going to start getting covered in tear gas. It's something that has been a deterrent for all the protesters and has caused them to disperse. It's obviously a very painful thing, and that's something that Brad Simmons and I, as my photographer, have experienced tonight. And it is doing a good job of getting people to leave the area, but people then in turn start to get more upset, and that is how you are seeing things like, okay, the officer is asking us to get out of the area. He doesn't want to hit us. He said, but what you're starting to see, I mean, look at this glass. Look at all of this. It's utter destruction on Fayetteville Street in downtown Raleigh right now.
Keeley, at one point you had told us it seemed as though we had more police officers out there than protesters, but it appears that the crowd out there has grown, and the violence certainly escalating.
Yeah, what we're seeing is no discussion about kind of the issues that people wanted to have discussed tonight, but we're seeing tear gas, and we're kind of starting to get surrounded by it because we're where the protesters are. They're trying to get rid of all the protesters at this point, and they're taking all means necessary.
Does it seem as though they're finally trying to bring an end to what has been now since 4:30 this afternoon, so almost 5 hours of, longer than that, sorry, just a long time now of marching through the streets, and now they're saying, okay, they're finally wanting to end this. I see Sky 5 is also showing us an image of a fire truck making its way, too, down to that area.
Yeah, and I mean, you see the armored truck. I think they are taking the steps they need to put an end to this. I think the amount of damage in terms of money, it's in the thousands. I had a bar owner who's part of the bar lawsuit to get bars back open text me and say every single one of his bars is destroyed on Fayetteville Street and vandalized, which is so difficult because those bars have been closed for 2 months now. They're already struggling financially. So a lot of people that were not involved in this at all are getting hurt in different ways.
Just devastating in so many ways. All right, Keeley Arthur live there on Fayetteville Street in Raleigh. Thank you, Keeley.
Let's go back to Fayetteville, the Cross Creek Mall. Brian Mims, you have been there. Looters were in there earlier. Police arrived. The looters took off. What is the scene now?
Yeah. Well, it is clearing out. The crowd is dispersing. Lots of police officers here. Lots of cars. I've never seen this many police officers, this many Fayetteville police together in one location before. And I lived here for 11 and a half years. I've never seen anything like this in Fayetteville. And when I arrived, I kind of lost track of time. But whenever I got here, on the other side of the JCPenney, I just saw people dashing in. They were just clamoring at the door. They got in and they ran out with bundles of clothes. I mean, just big piles of clothes from JCPenney. And I was driving separately from my partner, my photographer here, Michael Joyner, who's lived his whole life in Fayetteville. And neither one of us has seen anything like this, but you can just see the police officers outside the food court, and things have really simmered down, thank goodness, here in the last few minutes. You want me to pitch it back to you now?
Yeah, we'll take it back, Brian. Just stay right there. We'll be back with you a little bit later. Deborah.
Julian, we're going to go back to Raleigh now. Aaron Thomas is joining us. I couldn't do math a few minutes ago. 7 hours now. The protest started as so peaceful, and now we're looking at scenes like this behind you, Aaron. That's where the fire truck was going that we were just seeing on Sky 5.
Yeah, Deborah, we're at the intersection of Davies Street and Blunt Street. So this is the Dollar General, or DGX, that's downtown here. There's actually broken windows here, and there are fire crews from Raleigh Fire that are responding to this. You can actually see a lot of the smoke that is coming out of this store. Now, I do want to point out that this particular store opened back in 2017, and gonna let the sirens go by those things. Oh, this is getting hectic down here, bro. One moment. All right, hopefully you can hear us okay now. But anyways, this particular store, it opened back in 2017 just to give some downtown residents different options to, get whatever groceries and any items that they may need. And it's interesting, maybe about 5-10 minutes ago when we drove past here, we actually witnessed some of the looting, and there was actually power inside this store. And as soon as we came back, it's just unbelievable to see that there's broken windows, there's smoke coming out of here, and the power is off. And I can tell you, Deborah, that was certainly not the case about 5-10 minutes ago. So just clearly working to find out the cause of this fire.
Changing so rapidly, the conditions down there. Aaron, I want to bring you back to the wine shop owner that you talked to on Fayetteville Street. The man was cleaning up all the glass and just talking about how devastating that destruction was on his business. Can you tell us more about your conversation with him?
Just to walk some of our viewers that maybe, didn't see that live interview, he was really saying how, he was watching our WRL coverage and was hoping that a lot of the protesters would not make their way to his end of downtown Raleigh. I believe it was around Martin Street. And, just to see it, it's you really don't even know where to begin. It's almost like you are in disbelief over what's happening. It's like, you could, throw your fist, but he was already picking up the pieces and using wood to board up other windows to make sure that they wouldn't get broken. And yeah, I mean, and his main message was, this destroying small businesses is just not the way to make your voice heard, even while some protesters are saying this is what they have to do.
Aaron Thomas live in downtown Raleigh. Thank you. As we continue to look at these scenes from downtown Raleigh, we can easily say that this is probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in damage with all the glass broken, the stores looted, the places now set on fire. Sky 5 now showing us this fire at the DGX store that Aaron was just telling us about. Aaron is standing on the other street corner, and the firefighters are now trying to fight this fire. We've seen a fire at the Market House in Fayetteville, that historic landmark there in Fayetteville, and it seemed as though the sprinklers did a good job of putting out most of what could have been destructive damage there, but certainly a lot of damage in Fayetteville. And now we're seeing the fires happening in Raleigh as well. The police were able to put out the fires outside of the CVS store as the rioters were trying to kick the fire into the CVS as we were watching, Julian. They were able to put that out. But now the firefighters needed with the big trucks to fight this fire at the DGX.
Yeah. Let's go to Mark Boyle in the Live Center. Mark, what are you seeing from your perspective right now?
Julian, we are watching what's going on here in the Triangle, in Fayetteville, and in Raleigh, and in Durham, but across the country, similar situations. This is live pictures coming in from Los Angeles, where police have moved in riot gear, and they are handcuffing one of the protesters there. There have been several stores there that have been looted, and there are fires across the country as well. We'll show you some of those right now. This is Philadelphia, a city that has been on fire now for several hours, as protesters have gone building to building to building, and the firefighters are doing what they can. This here, live pictures coming in from Denver, Colorado, where you also are seeing flames this evening, and not just one area, but it is stretching across the block, and there are several protesters, dozens still in the area, and police as well. Back here in Raleigh, that fire situation in downtown, as firefighters are there on scene. We saw on Aaron Thomas's live shot, and police are there as well. Don't see too many protesters causing issues in that one specific intersection, but certainly Deborah and Julian, plenty of smoke coming out of that building right there. We'll monitor that situation as it develops. Back to you.
Yeah, Mark, going back to some of the cities that you looked at, and I think you illustrated it very well, what is happening there. But for most of the night, the officers, they had this wait-and-see approach. They were on the backside of where everything was taking place with the protests. Now it appears they're on the front lines. Is that fair to say from what you're seeing from cities across the country?
That's what it appears. It looked as if they were just outnumbered. We spoke with the Wake County Sheriff, Gerald Baker here. I spoke with him on the phone, and he said that he was having a hard time getting his crews and deputies to all the different scenes that were unfolding. It's just a numbers game at some point. This is the situation that Philadelphia firefighters are working against right now. Earlier this evening, there were thousands of people. They were setting police cars on fire, and you did see the police line in that area, but they weren't. This evening said that she did not have any comments for me. She told me that she would talk with me tomorrow. So we have not gotten a comment from Mayor Mary Ann Baldwin. The chief of police here in Raleigh, we have not heard from her either this evening. Raleigh police have been very quiet in terms of the social media presence. Oftentimes they'll push out a lot of information for us, but we have not seen that this evening. Back to what the mayor was saying earlier tonight before all of this, she was encouraging the peaceful protests. We saw that began at one point this evening, but it escalated as it went through the evening. And we do know that there were some city council members. Sage Martin was one who was posting live pictures on Facebook. He was part of the protest in that march. One thing that this story will continue to develop is the information and the dialogue between city leaders and police, as well as this community. When all of this is said and done, we open up business tomorrow and you look out and you see the damage and you go back to work next week, these conversations are going to be continuing. Again, a lot of the city leaders are in those protests, in those marches that we're seeing in downtown tonight.
Well, giving us every angle possible. Mark, we appreciate you. We'll see you a little bit. Let's go back to Fayetteville. Brian Mims is there. Brian, we had to cut you off a little bit earlier. We're back to you now. And it looks like officers, they still have Cross Creek Mall surrounded. That's where looters went inside earlier. Is that correct?
Yes, a bunch of looters did go inside the J.C. Penney. Now, police are going by with their loudspeakers saying, "We are asking you to leave Cross Creek Mall." Fayetteville police, we are asking you to leave the mall. Okay.
We ain't going nowhere.
So, sir, why are you doing this?
I am not black, but I hate police around here. They are crooked. They playing drugs on people in this city. I'm in Fayetteville right now. We're representing.
Okay, so that one individual who was part of this riot here at Cross Creek Mall.
For sure.
Yeah.
A riot.
Okay, we're going to continue with this broadcast. Lots of intrusions from the protesters who have become rioters. We were at the Market House in downtown for several hours. And, okay, we got people showboating as well. There was a guy who was, all right, we're going to stop. Go back to you.
Yeah, Brian, we will check back in with you later. Brian Mims has been in Fayetteville all day. He was at the Market House earlier where there was a protest. But before that, there was an earlier protest, a very peaceful protest in Fayetteville. The organizers said that many of the people were there just to make sure their voices were heard. But then he also stressed that he could not control the people either if something were to happen. That protest earlier in the day was very peaceful. Then they moved to the Market House, the protesters there. And then that's when things started to change. That is the Market House right there. Some protesters, or maybe we shouldn't call them protesters, because there were some looters, some would describe, in the Market House that went inside, busted up windows, also tried to set the building on fire. Now, just to give you a perspective of the Market House was constructed back in the 1800s. We're told the state legislator was there at one time. And we're also told that slaves at one point were sold there. And that is why it's believed that some protesters moved toward that area and possibly tried to burn down the Market House. That's when officers later arrived. They were able to calm things there. And then that's when we're told that looters went to Cross Creek Mall, went inside, took a number of items, and then police showed up there. And that brought us to where Brian Mims was, right down there in Fayetteville. Deborah.
Let's go back to what we're seeing in downtown Raleigh. We've had Sky 5 up for hours. We also have crews that are still on the ground as the conditions continue to escalate. Actually, it looks like Sky 5 is leaving the scene right now. We have almost every window on Fayetteville Street between Memorial Auditorium and the Capitol building destroyed, broken out, as the protesters and the rioters have gone through there and smashed these windows. This is also a city bus. Keeley Arthur, our reporter, was telling us about this one. The bus had people on it from the police department, and now you're looking at all these other windows that are just smashed. And businesses, restaurants, a wine shop, a jewelry store, this coffee shop, the CVS, all kinds of different businesses just destroyed. A hair shop, all of these glass doors shattered on Fayetteville Street. And as we've been saying too, you know, a lot of these businesses, the hair shop, for example, would have just been able to reopen. It's been a long time since they've even been able to have any customers in there, and now they are dealing with this kind of destruction on Fayetteville Street. We have seen firefighters going down. Our crews were there as the firefighters were trying to put out one of the major fires there on Hargett Street, and Davie and Blunt Street, the GGX Raleigh store, which is on fire. The firefighters were working to put that out. And then we're also seeing a line of the police officers in riot gear making their way down Fayetteville Street, trying to get the protesters out of that area once and for all. Keeley Arthur joining us again. Keeley, have they made any progress with trying to quell the violence tonight?
At this point, I am not seeing any protesters. It is fully policed at this intersection right here on Fayetteville and Hargett. This is right in front of the CVS that we saw being looted earlier. And I wanted to mention something. We spoke with Faisal Khan. He was one of the organizers of this protest. We spoke to him before the protest began at around 5 o'clock today. He sent me a message. This is from Raleigh Demands Justice. In it, he talks about how he coordinated with the Wake County Sheriff's Office, and he was really impressed. He thought everybody was being really peaceful. But then he ends it with saying that they are disappointed in the Raleigh Police Department. He says that the police department failed to present to the citizens today outside of their heavy use of force, and that their thoughts and prayers remain with the residents in the downtown area. So here you have one of the organizers being critical of the Raleigh PD, saying they did use excessive force here tonight.
Keeley, tell us what the police officers are doing now. I see them lined up behind you.
I think they're just trying to get a better handle of the area. I mean, you can look and you can see all the garbage. That's all from things that were in CVS that have been pulled out and destroyed. So they're just trying to get a handle of this area. And I think it's safe to say right now, we are maybe seeing a handful of protesters, but no more looters. People kind of just walking around very quietly. And from the chaos and all those loud noises and all the glass breaking that we heard maybe just 10 minutes ago, very, very quiet by comparison right now.
Boy, that is good to know, because on the right side of your screen, we're watching right now the fire that did happen outside of the CVS as the looters first went in there. Then they took things out of there and then set them on fire right in front of the CVS. Eventually, the Raleigh Fire Department, the Raleigh police officers went and they were able to put out that fire. But so it is good to hear, though, Keeley, that you're saying that it's much quieter right now.
Right, and I know, Deborah, you had asked if, the protest was dying down, and that's been a question that we have been getting all night, because we've seen it ebb and flow in a lot of different ways. And I have seen more people. Somebody stopped and asked me where a certain building was, because they were trying to find their car. So I think there is a sense that people want to leave, and there's really no purpose in being downtown right now.
Oh, boy. Well, it's been a very long day. Keeley and Brad, thank you so much for your work out there. Stay safe, and we appreciate all the images and the storytelling that you've given to us tonight. Thank you. Now we want to show some video from earlier today. These are protesters swarming a Raleigh police car right near the state capitol. My time frame is off now. I can't even remember what time exactly this was, but we were seeing a big confrontation as this Raleigh police officer was trying to get his cruiser through the crowd. They surrounded this car. At one point, they jumped on top of the car and were trying to smash out the police lights on top of the car. And then we saw other police officers with the riot gear. There was tear gas that was fired, and then those protesters were dispersed, and the Raleigh police officer was then able to move in his car. But this is where we saw perhaps some of the most physical confrontation between the Raleigh police officers and the protesters. For the most part, the police did not touch the protesters, and they came face to face, but they didn't actually put their hands on them. But this was a case where the protesters were getting very close to this car. There was a police officer in the car, and they were just trying to get the protesters away. So that was probably the most physical confrontation that we saw tonight. Julian?
Deborah, you just spoke with Keeley Arthur, and in the background, it appeared things were starting to calm down. And then sometimes when we go to another part of downtown Raleigh, it appears things are starting to pick back up with protesters. Let's go to Aaron Thomas now. He's in Raleigh. What intersection are you at, Aaron, and how are things right there?
Yeah, Julian, we are at Davie Street and Blunt Street. We're still here at the Dollar General Express, also known as DGX Raleigh. This store opened back in 2017, as we said before, giving downtown residents an extra option to get grocery items. And as you can see, we have crews from Raleigh Fire that are responding, so you can actually see some of the smoke that's coming from this damaged building. Now, as soon as we shared this information, I do want to point out that there was a viewer on Twitter that was quick to respond to the video that I shared, and his tweet says, quote, "The DGX is a residential building. People live above it. This is not just damaging property. This puts lives at risk." So you can actually see where photojournalist Charles Bradley is showing you. You can see some of the balconies and apartment buildings here. This is the Edison building, and it's like a mixed-use building. So you have the business, Dollar General Express on the bottom, and then folks that live just above it. So you can only imagine, you know, how frightening this may be. From what I'm understood, it looks like, you know, Raleigh Fire continues to try to get this under control, but pretty unbelievable images happening here at this intersection.
Aaron, do we know if any residents have evacuated at all?
That's something that we will try to confirm. For the most part, I've seen most people on this side over here just watching from their balcony, but as we're being kept back, there's actually some caution tape over here on the sidewalk, trying to, you know, it's forcing people to keep their distance. So as far as we know, we don't know of anybody evacuating at this point, but we have seen some onlookers watching.
Aaron, I think this is the first time, you know, you and Charles Bradley, photojournalists, have been all over this throughout the city of Raleigh tonight, and I think this is the first time I'm not seeing any protesters behind you or around you. Are there any protesters still lingering around at this point?
So yeah, if you actually want to walk, Charles, we have some folks. So we have this gentleman here that's taking pictures. We have some folks who look like protesters, but they're wearing T-shirts. And they have some, yeah, we can actually see a clear sense of what it looks like now. They have T-shirts, homemade T-shirts that say Black Lives Matter, and they have some signs that read Black Lives Matter as well. So they are pretty spread out throughout this intersection. And you can also see this large police presence here from Raleigh Police as well. But it seems like the amount of protesters on this part of the city has tampered off.
Yeah. It appears that there are more officers than protesters at this point. Aaron Thomas and Charles Bradley, thank you so much. We'll check back in with you here in a little bit. Thank you. Let's talk about Durham. Durham had a protest also today. 2 protests. Let's look at the first one. There were a lot of people at this protest in downtown Durham earlier today, and the crowd was extremely diverse. There was a lot of diversity within the crowd, and the organizers wanted to make sure that it would be a peaceful demonstration. There were a number of speeches. Not only were there speeches, there were signs. There were also children that were there with their parents. Some parents said they wanted their children just to see the process, just to be involved. And then there were other people. There was one woman who said she just wanted to be with her brothers and sisters. And then this was tonight after the protesters took, some say, a break because it got so hot at one point. They left at 7 o'clock. Joe Fisher, who was out there all day, said they reconvened, and then they start walking the streets. They were marching in the streets, going street to street, and officers were in a squad car blocking off the side streets so no traffic would come through and interrupt the protesters as they were marching down the street. They went to the police station. Once they were at the police station, they gave a number of speeches. And then they did something I have never seen before in a protest or in my history of covering protests. They went to the prisons, the prison there, or the jail rather. They went to the jail there, and the organizers, they yelled at the top of their lungs, they chanted, and they told the prisoners there they are not forgotten. And they told them that they still have worth. And then after that, they continued to march in the streets. We're told that protest is now over in Durham, but from the beginning to the very end, it remained peaceful the whole time. Deborah.
You know, Julian, we talked with the Councilman Mark Anthony Middleton, and he said it was a very concerted effort that they were going to keep a low profile of the police there in Durham. The police helped the protesters out by giving them a space, a safe space to be able to protest and march in the middle of the street, but it never became a confrontation there in Durham. So at least we had one city out of 3 today where protests happened that it stayed safe. Not the case in downtown Raleigh. Let's show you live pictures once again from downtown Raleigh with these the Raleigh police officers in Raleigh in riot gear, continuing to line up here on Fayetteville Street. That is our Capitol building in the distance where you're seeing there the flag is still flying, and it's nice to see now we're getting to back to normal where we're seeing cars just driving on the street. We're not seeing any violence at this point. Keeley was telling us that despite all the glass broken and debris everywhere, garbage everywhere, that it's starting to get quiet here in this part of downtown Raleigh, which has seen such destruction. Sky 5 showing you the zoomed in picture of this shattered glass. Every window, every storefront on Fayetteville Street has damage to it. And it's just a very sad scene, sad for all the business owners who are just now getting back into business because we've been dealing with the pandemic all of these months. And now we have the Raleigh police officers seem to be less tense. At one point today, they were lined up shoulder to shoulder. They didn't engage with those protesters at all. They were just staying stoic, but now they seem to be more relaxed as the situation is calming. We're going to take a break, and we will be back with more live coverage when we continue right after this.
Across the country, it's America's favorite jackpot game. Get ready, everybody. This is Powerball. Good evening, America. I'm Sam Arlen, and tonight we have an estimated jackpot for you. It's worth $127.3 million. I hope you have your Powerball tickets. Good luck. Let's see how you did tonight. First number down. 32 to lead us off. And right after that, we have 13. Here's John Poole from Missouri. John won $50,000 playing Powerball. Next number down is 58. That's followed by 41. And we're going to wind it up for you tonight. Good luck with the number 60. Now, for your winning Powerball number, it is 14 tonight, and that Power Play multiplier is 2. Take one more close look at tonight's winning numbers from all of us here at the Florida Powerball Studios. Have a great night. We'll see you back here this Wednesday night. Bye, everybody.
Just getting up or just getting out the door. We get it. Life these days isn't exactly 9 to 5. That's why this morning team is up before dawn with coverage you'll find only on WRAL. Elizabeth, tracking live radar down to your street up to 5 minutes faster. Ryan's traffic, more cameras to get you around the gridlock. Renee and Jeff with breaking news so you're ready for anything. Whenever you wake up, this morning team is there for you. Only on WRAL.
ARS Rescue Rooter is participating in the National ARS Cares Healthcare Heroes Program. As part of this program, we want to thank a healthcare professional for their selfless commitment to our communities by giving them a new heating and cooling system or water heater. If you know of a deserving active healthcare professional in need, nominate them now at ars.com/ARScares. ARS Rescue Rooter, heating, cooling, and plumbing, making it work, making it right.
This is our home. We've never seen it look quite like this.
But there's no mistaking it.
And it's our job to protect it.
Because the best people to fight for our communities
are those within them.
So if you've just bought a Volkswagen or were thinking of buying sometime soon, we're here to help with the community-driven promise.
Welcome! Your DSW store is open. You love shoes, and we do too.
You won't find brands this amazing anywhere else.
And we've dropped our prices.
Whoa!
Sandals under $20.
The lowest prices you've ever seen.
And while you're getting all those crazy good deals, we'll be keeping you extra safe with designated try-on areas and social distancing measures.
Looking for the best shoe store ever? The hunt is over.
They say home is where the heart is. School is no different. Its heart is found in the educators dedicated to every student's success. That will never change. And now, they need our support more than ever before. That's the power of everyone pulling together. That's the power of public schools.
When America needed us to build, we built. Masks, ventilators, shields. When frontliners needed support, Ford dealers answered. And now we're open and ready to serve you. With exciting special offers and deals across the Ford lineup. Stop by a Ford dealership or go online. We've made it safer to shop, easier to buy. Now get 0% financing for 84 months, plus 3 months deferred payments on select 2019 Ford vehicles.
Seafood, fresh and local. That's what you'll find at Harris Teeter. We're committed to supporting our local fishermen and their families. They're our neighbors and our friends. They catch the freshest quality seafood and deliver it to us. Right now, we're featuring fresh, locally caught shrimp for all of your summer recipes. Whether you shop in our stores or order online, you'll find the best local and regional seafood for your table. Harris Teeter, your neighborhood food market.
We have been covering protests in the Triangle all afternoon into the evening from Durham, Fayetteville, and also Raleigh. Let's go back to Raleigh, where Keeley Arthur is there. And Keeley, at one point, I would say it appeared were more protesters than officers. Now it's safe to say there's more officers than protesters. Is that correct?
Yes, and even more than that, Julian, we're seeing kind of things calm down. There's a different energy around here right now. The officers are kind of talking to one another. Some of the protesters and people who were down here just minutes ago kind of taking pictures because Fayetteville Street really is so surreal right now. You see these areas that are just kind of tattered with garbage. You can see the glass from downtown Dental. The window, that entire front area just destroyed. And so a lot of tension to create those things, but the tension is really dying down right now. And that happened as a result of tear gas, these rubber pellets that were fired, including one time hitting Brad Simmons, the photographer who is shooting this live shot right now. So yes, it seems calm right now, but I mean, you know, and everybody watching knows that there was a whole lot that led up to this point right here.
Yeah, it seems like things have certainly died down. The business owners, they have shared many perspectives throughout the evening, and one business owner, he basically talked about, you know, he was excited to try to open his business back up, and now he has to deal with this. Keeley.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a double whammy. It really is, in terms of, dealing with having your business shut down for months and now having to clean everything up.
Yeah. Thank you, Keeley. Deborah?
Let's go back to Mark Boyle in the Live Center. Mark?
Deborah, it's important to mention that we have not heard from the police chief in Raleigh yet or the governor in terms of response. Other cities, other countries, or other states rather, like Los Angeles, this is one area that is not under control right now, and we just got an alert here in the newsroom. The Los Angeles mayor has said the National Guard will be deployed there overnight. We have watched for quite a while, well over an hour, different fires where firefighters are working to get those flames out. And in about a block or two away, there is looting going on at different stores like shoe stores, and it's just a flood of people in and out and no police to be found. This is in Los Angeles, the CBS studios there where different shows are taped, the local news there. You'll see that those gates were breached. Those rioters forced those gates open. One security officer there was no match for those people, and they went inside the parking lot there. Eventually, things calmed down, but you can see how the police did move in. This is happening in Los Angeles, California. Again, fires continue to rage this evening across the country, and we'll leave you with this live picture coming in. This was just put up in the live center. This is in Salt Lake City. All new tonight, they're dealing with protests and riots on the street in Utah. Back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you.
Well, let's talk about the weather. Zach Malott, he joins us now. Zach, we were talking about possibly seeing showers at one point.
We had the chance for showers. We had them early on this afternoon in Fayetteville. We had a few in Durham and a few just east of Wake County. We were also, and I say we were also under a level 1 risk for severe storms. Luckily, no severe weather popped up. And all of the storms now well south of the viewing area, south of Goldsboro. We are now in the clear. The cold front we've been watching is also now pushing through. And that's going to mean less humid air. It's been rather humid the last few mornings. We've had dew point temperatures, moisture content values in the 70s, and that's all going to change for at least a few days. Breaking down satellite and radar across the region, notice there were some showers and storms that popped up east of Raleigh. Some of those were severe in eastern, southeastern Virginia, and now all of that energy is pushing offshore. The cold front is pushing through, and we will see some big changes compared to where we had temperatures today and where we will be tomorrow. The cold front really moves to our southeast tomorrow early in the afternoon and through the afternoon. So expect a cooler day, less humid air, something you will definitely notice, hopefully enjoy tomorrow morning. And temperatures will be back in the mid-70s tomorrow afternoon, something you should also enjoy. Hopefully getting outside and just trying to relax a little bit with everything going on. High pressure is the main reason why we're seeing cooler and less humid air for Sunday. And this will also continue for the first full day of June. I'll show you that in a second. Overnight tonight, the temperatures are going to drop back in the upper 50s to mid 60s. So much cooler overnight tonight. The reason why is because we have less humidity in the air. Less moisture will allow temperatures to cool off rather fast. So we're back on the cooler side to start for Sunday morning. Sunday afternoon, high temperatures below normal. We'll see them back in the upper 70s at 80 in Fayetteville tomorrow afternoon, 79 in Clinton, and we'll see a mostly sunny to partly cloudy sky. So all in all, your Sunday afternoon is looking very pleasant and also beautiful with temperatures in the mid to upper 70s. Notice Monday morning, though, morning temperatures back in the mid 50s. So it's going to be much cooler for Monday morning. Looking for Monday afternoon, 76. That is June 1st. Believe it or not, we actually have a 20% chance of seeing June 1st temperatures at or above 90. So enjoy the first day of June at 76 because the 90s only take a few days to get here. 83 for Tuesday, 91 on Wednesday, 91 on Thursday. And that's when we start to see a few